राम ओम श्री राम जय राम जय जय 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 राम
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 Shri Ram, Jai
Coming now or later.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om. 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 Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Hari Om to everybody, Pranam to everybody. So yesterday, technically, we have completed the 31 boards. After going through, why are we going through that again and again? The purpose is to make our Ramnam more and more effective. Purpose of Ramnam is to make us aware of his presence within. He says remembrance, remembrance, and remembrance. The problem we are all facing is, while chanting we get some pleasant feeling, no doubt about it. But compared to 16 or 17 hours of our waking state, how much time do we spend in chanting with this bhavana? People who are in ashram, probably they get more time. Even if we don't sit for that, when we pass through Samadhi Mandir, when we pass through Bhajan Hall, we hear, whatever may be our involvement in other, somehow we get an opportunity to mentally connect ourselves with the name. But once we go out of the ashram, when we are involved in our family life, professional life, social life, how much time do we spend in remembering him through chanting? In percentage weight, it will be 1% or 2% at best. Normally, suppose we take 16 hours of our waking state. Really 1,000 minutes, nearly. How many minutes do we spend? Suppose it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes. At best half an hour, 30 minutes. Think about it. That is why we are facing the problem. So then we have to keep on devising some method by which we remember him, though not through chanting. Or during the chanting, the impact should be such that it leaves its dent for a longer time. The real purpose of chanting is to remember him who is with us, who has been with us, who has provided everything right from my feet level up to this level. These thoughts, that is enough. We are remembering him. Whenever we handle any situation, any object, immediately we try to link. That is enough. So we have to devise some method by which we don't get delinked during our non-chanting time. So that is why he has set up this ashram, so that those who are in the midst of various activities, he has provided a center where when they come here, they can exclusively concentrate upon this aspect. How do I remember him? That is why Mataji used to say, this is a school. You are coming here to learn universal love and service. That is the curriculum. And the methodology is Nam Dhyan Seva. If this is clear, even if we stay for 2 days, 4 days, or 5 days, or 1 week, or 10 days, we will be focusing on this. Just like when we go to school, we are not going there to see the teachers or the structure, but we are going to learn. Texts are helping us, teachers are helping us, curriculum is helping us, syllabus is helping us, examination is helping us, like that, So this is what they keep on harping, doing so many occasions, through so many articles. Papa has been highlighting this. Today we will read one article of Papa, again about Nama. By the repetition of the divine name, your mind is not only purged of all its impure thoughts and desires, but is also lifted to the loftiest state of consciousness in which you realize your union and oneness with God. This one sentence is enough. I am also chanting. Am I going nearer to this? By the repetition of the divine name, your mind is not only purged of all its impure thoughts. How do I do that? My impure thoughts are still there. So I start thinking, Here Papa says, by the repetition of the divine name, your mind is not only purged of all its impure thoughts and desires, but is also lifted to the loftiest state of consciousness in which you realize your union and oneness with God. That is the purpose of repetition. Of all the disciplines for controlling the restless mind, there is none so easy and efficacious as taking the divine name. But there is a way in the repetition of it. And that is, it must be uttered with full faith and love for it. Then only you will feel that the Lord's name is very, very sweet. So the backup theory should be there, We are simply chanting with no backup. That is why it doesn't leave any deep impact. So now Papa is making it clear that Nama with the right background, with the right perspective, when it is chanted, it will purge off all my impure thoughts and desires and make me to feel His presence within. So there is a way in the repetition of it, and that is, it must be uttered with full faith and love for it. Then only you will feel that the Lord's name is very, very sweet. The difficulty with some is that they cannot repeat the name continuously, although they desire to do so. The reason for this is that their love for the name is not greater than their love for the perishable objects of the world. It is a psychological truth that our mind thinks most of the object which we love most, because our concentrated love inevitably influences the mind to remember that object. Our concentrated love inevitably influences the mind to remember that object. So also, if our mind is fired with an intense love for the name, this love will automatically enable us to remember the name constantly. When this love is lukewarm and unsteady, our remembrance of the name will correspondingly become unsteady and broken. When the necessary intensity of love for the name is present, our mind will dwell uninterruptedly on the name. As an example, we find in a household that the mother loves her youngest child most, and even when the child is in its cradle, beyond the sight of the mother, she will not fail to keep up a sustained remembrance of the baby. What does make the mother thus keep up a stream of remembrance of the baby? We have to admit that it is her concentrated love for that baby. Similarly, if we love God beyond everything else in the world, this love will automatically maintain in our mind a continuous flow of God remembrance. The name of God will start on our tongue spontaneously and will run on it continuously. Further, the sweet sound issuing from the utterance of the name will prove to be a veritable nectar to the attentive ear. The name of God will automatically maintain in our mind a continuous flow of God remembrance. The name of God will start on our tongue spontaneously and will run on it continuously. Further, the sweet sound issuing from the utterance of the name will prove to be a veritable nectar to the attentive ear. When thus the mind is inebriated, as it were, with the love of God and filled with the music of His name, all it desired will be transmuted into the divine waves of ecstasy, and all the movements of the senses will be saturated with the same joy. In this state, vision of God will flash out through our eyes, raising us to the supreme status of universal vision. This is the ineffable summit of divine union and revelation. Through this article, Papa is indirectly asking us to every now and draw the balance sheet, no? Take the stock of our mental stuff. Whether it is still going out on objects, emotions and thoughts, or whether it is struggling to find the source from where all these things emanate. So Nama stands for the source. So during the non-chanting time, if we make a sustainable effort to link us with the origin, then our Nama chanting is something like the accelerator in a vehicle. But all other mechanisms should go along with it, no? So what we do during the non-chanting time matters much for our spiritual progress. Because 90% of our waking time is not connected with chanting or remembering. That is why probably Mataji was instituting, some of you might remember, that when you are in ashram, you must at least set apart 8 hours for chanting, 6 hours for chanting, like that, no, she would say. Because you don't get this privilege outside. You don't have to take care of the household, you don't have to take care of anything else. You are here only to concentrate on this aspect. So you make a vow that you will do this much time. I don't know the hour. You remember?
7 hours, sir. 7 hours.
5 hours.
Okay. Some hours she kept on telling.
No, Mataji.
5 hours in the group chanting apart from our chanting.
Anyway, it's all right. Some specification. They were encouraging people to write. We have thought only chanting, you know. We never understood that the purpose of motivating us was we will go and ask them or ask ourselves, in what way it is going to help me? So that I will know the right perspective with which I am chanting. All sadhanas are intended to still the mind and finally eliminate it in order to become established in the self. The test of right sadhana is attainment of joy. The sweet sound issuing from the utterance of the name will prove to be a veritable nectar to the attentive ear. When thus the mind is inebriated, as it were, with the love of God and filled with the music of His name, all its desires will be transmuted into divine waves of ecstasy, and all the movements of the senses will be saturated with the same joy. In this state, vision of God will flash out through our eyes. That is the indication, no? Whether my Nama chanting is enabling me to visualize Him in His creation. In this state, vision of God will flash out through our eyes, raising us to the supreme status of universal vision. This is the ineffable summit of divine union and revelation. Really, blessed is the soul who keeps the divine name always on his lips. A saint has rightly said that the devotee who is thus blessed is really a Jivan Mukta or a liberated soul, where the divine thought ceaselessly dwells. There the ego sense is absent, there self-surrender is complete, there the vision of God everywhere is attained. The power of the divine name is invincible. It can convert pain into joy, it can change death into immortality, nay, it can transform our entire life into the very being and consciousness of the all-pervading, all-inclusive Godhead. So whether we are doing Swadhyay, whether we are doing Bhajan, whether we are doing Nama chanting, whether we are attending to household duties or professional involvement or social involvement, we have been asked to remember him. We have to check up whether we remember him. So when Nama chanting is intensified and chanted with the right perspective, even though it is for the short time, it will have its relevance and supervising, witnessing role even while I am not chanting. So whenever I go off the line, the Nama chanting will remind me. I may not be able to correct myself totally, but somewhere I will get corrected. If my preferences and priorities on something other than this, I may not be able to correct fully. But still, somewhere in the corner of the mind, it will be pointed out. In one of the boards, you remember, bitter experiences make an eye open, make the eye open to the reality that this world is transitory. Like that, the remembrance will come. The inner voice, the stamp of the master, signature of the master. The effort to universalize our vision, becoming positive in our activity. These are all remembering him. Don't think only by chanting, no. During the chanting time, if I keep on bringing all these attributes, even if it is for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, it will have its own positive influence. Sure. Just like when we read the 12th chapter, Adveshta Sarvabhutanam, even if I forget, the moment I ignore or violate that Adveshta Sarvabhutanam, it will immediately remind me, oh, what did I do? I should not. This is remembrance. Moral, ethical, spiritual laws, values, they are reminding us of his presence. That is why the values are there. You become compassionate, you become loving, you become self-sacrificing, you become forgiving, you feel contented. All these things are remembering him. The feeling of absence of possessiveness, all these are remembrance. That is why he put it in a different way in Bhagavad Gita. Those who are observing this are my dearest devotees. That's all. So when you say remembrance, 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 we now understand remembrance of him in as many ways as possible. No? When you do something efficiently, whole soul in, you are remembering him. When you are dedicating your action, you are remembering him. Because to him it goes ultimately. Puja Swamiji used to put it in a very simplest form. There are only two things in the world, me the sense of individuality and he the Lord. That means behind everything, every object, emotions, thoughts, persons, I see him, the signature of the master. So I make it as perfectly as possible. I handle it with a touch of love, touch of dedication. So the Nama chanting will help us to pull us up whenever we go off the line. That is why Papa said in the first line, no? By the repetition of the divine name, your mind is not only purged off all its impure thoughts and desires, but is also lifted to the loftiest state of consciousness in which you realize your union and oneness with God. But there is a way in the repetition. It must be uttered with full faith and love for it. Then only you will feel that the Lord's name is very, very sweet. Faith in the power of God's name is a rare thing. Those blessed ones who have acquired this faith have scaled the supreme height of spirituality and attained the vision of God. Tukaram, a famous saint of Maharashtra, was a great votary of the name. He would sing and dance in ecstasy, taking God's holy names. His songs would awaken and thrill the souls of those who went to listen to him. He was in the habit of performing kirtan in the temple of his place. Vast crowds would gather to partake of the spiritual feast he offered. So when he is here, Tukaram, he was a votary of God's name. But what was his life? Always contented. We happened to see a movie of Tukaram taken in 1937. Probably when the first, probably must be the first cinemas. Even today when we see it, it is inspiring. That answers all this. Adi Bija. So we find there, he was chanting, he was enjoying that bhajan, but during the non-chanting time, his life was in line with that. Even when he was taking care of the watching of the fields, something like that. So when the owner got double the quantity, usual quantity, he said it all belongs to Tukaram. So they all brought that, in cartloads. When Tukaram was not there, it was all unloaded. His mices was very happy. They were all finding it difficult to make both ends meet. And Tukaram will be always singing. He will not be bothering about this. So when so much of grains have come, they were supremely happy. As soon as Tukaram came, he saw this. What is this? So they said, somebody has sent because of your taking care of the field. Immediately he said, don't touch. Entire thing he sent word, entire thing take it and give it to the entire village people. He was suffering, but he was not compromising on any values. To him, the chanting means absolute purification of his from the me and mine. Those of you who have not seen this movie, please see that. It is there in, what do you call this? YouTube, it is there. And luckily, all the bhajans carry the subtitle because it is in Marathi. Many of us may not be able to know. Has anybody seen? Padmati must have seen.
Because it's a Marathi movie.
It's an old movie, Swami.
It's an old movie.
But beautiful.
விட்டல சொன்னீங்க
Tukaram, tell them.
துக்காராம் விட்டல மண்ணுல போயிட்டு குழந்தைய கொண்டு போய் வச்சு
இல்ல அது கோரா கும்பாரா.
அது கோரா கும்பா. கோரா கும்பா.
I don't have.
Internet வேணுமா?
Somebody can take, you try. Tukaram, that Adi Bija, no? Adi Bija Angure. That beautiful song, small song. So he was there in the field and he was singing this. We should know this, Because even during the non-chanting time, non-bhajan time, what they do matters, or it has its influence on our progress in chanting. It should correlate, it should be in one line. But yeah.
Just that advertisement.
Hindi also
it is a full time then. It is not part time at all.
Is it? Subtitle comes.
Hindi it is there. No, dubbed in Hindi also.
It's a picture, it will come.
Shall I go to the page?
Only the
I
picture.
took only the
Dubbed
song.
in Hindi also is there.
Something Tukaram.
Marathi and English.
Dubbed in Hindi.
Because that every word is inspiring.
1936. No, Swami, here also subtitles.
Very well. Very.
ಇದು ಬೇರೆ ಭಜನ.
Same.
But there is no subtitles. They have written subtitles.
It will come. I'm not getting it yet. Stop.
Net is not coming from it.
In the field. Yeah.
receive our
Koti, Koti, Koti.
Shall I speak? You see the lyrics, meaning of Adi.
PDF ready.
Papa keeps on harping us that we should go back to our source, source, source. Three words he is, one is the source, other is the origin, and the third one is the root. So this bija, Adi Moolam, that is why it is connected. And he was enjoying it. The first grain, he was in charge of that field. So when the birds come and then take, he will not disturb them. So initially, all the crops, they will not get. But later on, we don't exactly remember, later on, they get full crop. He was dismissed or something like that. Because he is not attentive. But to him, it's not because of inattentive. To him, everything he saw was the signature of God, whether in the birds. So he couldn't prevent them. But because of his purity, the Lord ensured that the owner gets double the crop. That is why when we remember that incident comes. So not merely chanting, not merely singing the bhajan, throughout his life, right from the moment he gets up till he retires to bed, he was in God remembrance only, in anything and everything. That is why we said the remembrance does not mean what we have defined as remembrance. It comes out in the form of love, compassion, ready to serve attitude, self-sacrifice, perfection. Like that, when we start listing out all the values, moral, ethical, spiritual values, they are all reminding us of him. Because he is expressive, he becomes expressive through those values. So all my activity, that is why Papa put one word, outer activity should be compatible with inner aspiration. Inner aspiration is to remember him. It is for that purpose Nama is given to us. Where are we now? Yes, we have been reading some articles of Papa. So now, anybody would like to say anything on this?
Lyrics is there, meaning is not. Adi Vijay. Adi Vijay.
Meaning.
Meaning is
Subtitle I have seen. Unfortunately, this is not cooperated. Tomorrow we'll do that. Tomorrow is Sunday. Day after tomorrow we will try to show this particular portion. So that it confirms to us that our life, it is not that it's a compartmentalized life. No. During chanting we try to develop remembrance in the way in which we have understood. And rest of the time we may be perfect. We may be doing it with discipline, but not with this idea. That is why we feel delinked when we are not chanting. Remembrance, you remember there was one board where he said remembrance should be like pouring oil from
One vessel to the another vessel. Kaila dhara.
You remember? Everybody is keeping quiet.
Yes, Swamiji, yes.
All are in a
Very well.
advanced state.
Continue.
All have become one with the Almighty. What is that word?
An oil is poured from one vessel to the other.
Repetition of Ramnam simultaneously with meditation on the great ideal is perfectly right, but the remembrance must flow in the mind without break, like the stream of oil poured from one vessel into another. We have spent a lot of time on these boards, Repetition of Ramnam simultaneously with meditation, not merely chanting. Repetition of Ramnam simultaneously with meditation on the great ideal is perfectly right, but the remembrance must flow in the mind without break, like the stream of oil poured from one vessel into another.
The subtitles coming soon. Subtitles coming. Subtitles, the meaning is coming.
Okay.
It all began with a seed. In one seed there are millions of seeds.
So it is
In one seed there are millions of seeds.
Don't worry, day after tomorrow we'll have it in a PPT. Because that is a very, very inspiring song. Very inspiring, thought-provoking. Trying to link us to the source from which we have all come. That is why in that movie, that Tukaram sings in a divine ecstasy. When Papa says, divine ecstasy. When the Naam is, because fully absorbing the, the theme of what Nama stands for. Anything else?
Swamiji,
Oh.
in effect, it is a full-time job.
Ah.
Every direction you are coming to saying that it is full-time.
Full time means what? It's good that you raise.
Full-time remembrance.
Full time, not in the way in which we understand as remembrance. Full time means full time of remembrance. Among the various activities he makes us to perform, then only it becomes practical, you know. You have to attend to your family duties, professional duties, social duties, individual duties. And if I try to maintain the remembrance, that is called total remembrance. Nobody will be able to retire from all these activities. God has not freed them. Each one has been given an vocation like family, profession, societies. So that we have forgotten that. If somebody says it's a full time mean, you have to go close your door and chant. One day you may be able to do it probably. That is the toughest job. And what we do, it is not practical, no? It is not linked to your practical life. So what is linked with my practical life? That I should think, you know. So remembrance means trying to bring this dimension in all that we do right from the moment we get up till we retire. Chanting is also one among them. Going to the puja room is also one among them. Offering our worship in the traditional way is one among them. But the rest of the time, suppose I am disconnected with this theme, think about it. Think. When he said, Tasma Sarveshu Kaleshu, what is that remembrance? Mam Anusmara. Not Smara, Anusmara. Continuous remembrance. So that means what? All of us may develop our own meaning. Eh?
To feel the divine aspect in each and every action of us.
We should try, you know. At the moment, we are not in a position to do that.
From morn to night, in each and every aspect.
I may not be. So how do I reach that? As many as possible to begin with. Let us be practical, you know. When somebody asked Papa, we are all in the midst of so many activities, how do we maintain? I have to go to office. How do I maintain remembrance? Then Papa said, not that you are 8 hours working, means 8 hours you are working. You get some pause moments, you know. So when you get the pause moment, suppose you know I am doing God's work. So outwardly I am working for an employer, but ultimately it is God has chosen that employer. God has prompted that employer to set up this. God has provided me an opportunity to work. Inside me, He prompts me to go and apply and get a job. And you are doing God's job. This is remembrance. In a very long letter to Sanjeev Rao, he has explained it beautifully, which is there in the letters to Swami Ramdas. Because he said, I am only a wage earner. So Papa enlightened, no, you are not a wage earner. You have to change the attitude. So that is how we remember him, no? This also he says, and God is paying you the salary. God is paying you the salary for the work He has allotted you through your relative employer.
Small. ಇದು
First, there was a single seed sprouting. It became a sapling. The sapling grew into a tree. The tree birthed flowers and fruit by thousands. That's all.
It's a small point.
So how it is self-propagation, no? So all of us are the product of this self-propagated seed. Just like one seed of paddy becomes many, no? We have seen that in the field. It is called self-propagation. So similarly, God, when He says, I am the seed of everything, yes. So suppose I go back to the source and connect myself, everything enough, not merely chanting. Think about it. So there are various methods by which this remembrance can be kept up. I got that letter. Work becomes joy when you do it without regard for the results of it. Perfection. Perfection is the goal. What do we mean by perfection? A clear conception of it is the first necessity before we can hold it up as our ideal. A free and liberated life filled with peace, joy in all its movements is, as Ramdas understands, the goal of perfection. Unconditioned, unhampered by any circumstances. You have to admit that a householder whom you describe as being preeminently unfitted for this is not in any way worse off than a so-called free homeless wanderer who can do as he pleases, so long as both of them are caught up in the clutches of ignorance and desires. No work is without value, whether you are paid wages for it or not. Work becomes joy when you do it without regard for its result. Since you say you are working in the office only for wages, you get the idea that you work by your own individual power, forgetting that the divine Shakti within you is propelling you to action. Hence it is that you are dissatisfied with the work which does not yield you the joy it might. So long as you maintain this mentality, even if you are called upon to do the work which Ramdas is doing now, you would not be free from the reaction. The remedy lies in the eradication of the lower self or the ego sense. No matter. Know that reward or no reward, you work in the office or the workshop because God has appointed you for the task. Very often we are engaged in activities which bring us no tangible direct profit or compensation. Still we are in for them. The worker who has realized that the divine power is reflected in all his actions, he is not concerned with their fruit. And the Divine Mother, to whom he has surrendered, looks after them. He is never made feel the want, however poor he may be. My devotee perisheth never. The wages that you think that the officer pays you are then realized to be coming from the Lord Himself for His service rendered to Him by the power He has granted you. We are trying to know the word remembrance, A professional, suppose he starts thinking about it. The wages that you think that the officer pays you, the employer pays you, are then realized to be coming from the Lord Himself for His service rendered to Him by the power He has granted you. Yours is not to determine the exact return for your work, but to be contented with what God allows you as your share in the outcome of your toil. You keep working all the time without an eye to the result thereof, and through right concentration get absorbed in the work itself and enjoy freedom and bliss. Antagonistic forces lie within. They are at work in all alike, both in the householder and the wandering homeless seeker of truth. The solution does not lie in disappearing from the face of the earth into some external region where the visible universe is absent in order to avoid the effects of these forces. A man is called upon to live in this world in the situation that falls to his lot, transcending the limitation to which his ignorance has subjected him, so that he can be impervious to the onslaught of those forces, which would then be transmuted into the divine by his looking upon all action as the work of Prakriti or Shakti, other gunas. You may call yourself a karma yogi, but that only if you live and act in the freedom of the spirit, not otherwise. So that means remembrance, We were trying to get some more clarity on the word remembrance. So in a lengthy letter, it's quite a lengthy letter, addressed to P.S. Ranavar, P. Sanjeev Ranavar, Papa's younger brother, Purged. And the compilers, thanks to them, they have retained the whole, because this will give us more and more clarity. How to maintain that remembrance constant, it gives us some idea. Even when I clean the toilet, even when I clean the bathroom, even when I sweep the floors, so now we pray to Papa or God inside. We have understood intellectually now how to maintain remembrance, constant remembrance. But when we start in the field, our old habits come back. I am the doer, and the work should give me some benefit. I forget about that you have given. So enable me to remember you, please. So this constant prayer will help us to slowly transform all our activities as an offering to Him. Any work. This is a practical side. Suppose they say you don't do this, you be aware, that is impractical. Nobody will be able to do it. Anything that is prescribed should be universal and practical. Our attitude, here we are not changing the situation, but our attitude towards the situation, that goes through a radical change. Kindly think about all these things. When these complementary factors are kept in our mind during our non-chanting time, it will definitely help us to maintain the remembrance. Even if there are gaps, Constant may not be there. There are gaps, agreed. But still, instead of only limiting to 5 minutes chanting, it will be something more than that. I am walking, you are making me to walk. I am remembering, Something has fallen when somebody was walking. You immediately pick it up. You try to gauge the man's tension. You rush up to him. You hand it over to him. You are remembering him. But if you find a person to person, you have forgotten him. Though that is the first step. We used to share one incident, which we witnessed. For the sake of newcomers, we will again repeat. We were coming from Chennai or something by train. As we were reaching Neeleshwar, one of our co-traveler was the Vice Chancellor of Central University here. We were talking something and he was about to get down at Neeleshwaram station. So he left. He got down from the compartment and the person who is in charge of this, what you call the blanket, pillow, he comes there, Suddenly he saw the mobile. The train was just taking off. This man rushed to the entrance and the other person was walking. He had forgotten, And the train is moving. Then he showed and then the other person came between and somehow it was handed over. It was a terrible risk on the part of the person who is handling this. Because he was holding this thing and then hand on the handle and then he was giving it. I was watching this scene. What a tremendous concern for somebody, And not a word when he came back. So that means he is not doing his job only, He doesn't know the person. He was a vice chancellor or something like that. As soon as he saw, he was able to connect. The entire thing is. So that means seeing himself in others. He will derive the benefit when he connects up the provider who has brought this incident to enjoy it. The field was created by God. Later on, as soon as when he tries to remember all these things, an inexplicable joy will well up. So we are trying to understand the word remembrance. That is why those who are leading the spiritual life, they will be full of values. Quality, care and concern for others. Ready to serve attitude. Selfless in all respects. Simple living habits. Contented in all situations. Not become possessive. So these are some of the things by which we are trying to remember him. It is not that we are cultivating this, Our sadhana, it is the output or outcome of my sadhana. The more I start thinking about him as the indwelling reality and the indwelling reality in everybody, I cannot but love, I cannot but serve. Think. These are all the things which Papa wants us to know. More about it on Monday. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om. Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Sri Ramo